The White House has escalated its trade tirade by leveling more withering and unprecedented criticism against Canada's Prime Minister, branding Justin Trudeau a backstabber unworthy of President Donald Trump's time. There's a special place in hell for any foreign leader that engages in bad faith diplomacy with President Donald J. Trump and then tries to stab him in the back on the way out the door, Trump trade advisor Peter Navarro said in an interview nationally broadcast in the United States. Canada's Foreign Minister, Chrystia Freeland, said her country does not conduct its diplomacy through ad hominem attacks. The U.S. president's trade advisor fired off the anti-Trudeau message as Donald Trump arrived in Singapore for his summit with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Picture, AP. There's a special place in hell for any foreign leader that engages in bad faith diplomacy with President Donald J. Trump, said his advisor. Picture, APMR. Trump fired off a series of tweets about from Air Force One en route to Singapore for his nuclear summit Tuesday with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Picture, apt verbal volleys by Mr. Navarro and Mr. Trump's top economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, picked up where Mr. Trump left off last night with a series of tweets from Air Force One en route to Singapore for his nuclear summit Tuesday with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Mr. Kudlow suggested Mr. Trump saw Mr. Trudeau as trying to weaken his hand before that meeting, saying the president won't let a Canadian prime minister push him around. Kim must not see American weakness. More. Trump throws G7 into disarray with tweets after he leaves Mr. Trudeau didn't respond to questions about Mr. Trump when the prime minister arrived at a Quebec hotel. Picture, apt Trudeau, pictured with Vietnam's PM Nguyen Xuan Phuc, reiterated to Trump how tariffs would harm industry on both sides of the U.S.-Canada border. Picture, apt just as the Trudeau-hosted Group of Seven meeting of the world's leading industrialized nations had seemed to weather Mr. Trump's threats of a trade war, the president backed out of the group's joint statement that Mr. Trudeau said all the leaders had come together to sign. Mr. Trump called Mr. Trudeau dishonest. Mr. Trudeau didn't respond to questions about Mr. Trump when the Prime Minister arrived at a Quebec City hotel today for meetings with other world leaders, though Ms. Freeland later told reporters that we don't think that's a useful or productive way to do business. A Trudeau spokesman, Cameron Ahmad, said last night that Mr. Trudeau said nothing he hasn't said before, both in public and in private conversations with Mr. Trump. Donald Trump, pictured on Saturday at a meeting with German Prime Minister Angela Merkel, backed out of signing the group's joint statement. Picture, upon Roland Paris, a former foreign policy advisor to Mr. Trudeau, jabbed on Trump on Twitter, big tough guy once he's back on his airplane. Can't do it in person. He's a pathetic little man-child, Mr. Trudeau said. He had reiterated to Mr. Trump, who left the G7 meeting before it ended, that tariffs would harm industries and workers on both sides of the U.S.-Canada border. Trudeau told reporters that imposing retaliatory measures is not something I relish doing, but that he wouldn't hesitate to do so because I will always protect Canadian workers and Canadian interests. Copyright 9 Digital Thai Limited 2018.